How long is too long for introductions is the first question. So this is an interesting question because, like most writing questions, the answer is it depends on a lot of factors. Novels are not like screenplays where it's very easy to pinpoint the number of pages you should spend doing a given thing, that because a novel's length is going to vary wildly, and your structure is going to vary wildly depending on your own preferences and the genre you're writing in. So while you can get a screenplay format book that's going to be like, all right, on page 6 you should have done this, I can't tell you that for your novel. I can tell you this. You generally want to go a little faster into it than you are comfortable as a new writer. The sooner you can introduce the tone of your story and your character's main conflict, maybe not the main conflict of the plot, but how the character is going to relate to it, the better off you're going to be. What you want to really do is you want to sell us on being in this character's head. And that is if you can do nothing but sell us on the character's personality in the first couple of chapters, you can coast a long way on that in a novel. And this will also depend on your genre, right? And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, how famous you are. Let me explain. Readers going into a book are going to come into it willing to give you a certain amount of leeway. If they have read previous books by you that have had excellent payoffs by the end of that book, then they will give you longer to establish your introduction because they know that the payoff will be worth it. This is the advantage you get when you release a number of books, and it's why I can get away with Way of Kings more easily than you could get away with Way of Kings, right? I still would recommend you follow your passion for telling the type of story you want to tell, even if it is something like Way of Kings that is going to have a steeper learning curve. Do your thing, but understand there's this way I talk about stories and people picking up stories. And it's like every reader has a certain number of, like a threshold of crap they'll let an author get away with, right? And everyone's threshold is different, and the things they count as crap that they have to let the author get away with is different based on the individual. For instance, some readers might pick up a book like this, and that's immediately, all right, I'm skeptical, Sanderson, right? Like, I have read big books like this before that have meandered a ton and then haven't had a good payoff, and because that's my experience, that's crap that is going against your stuff I have to put up with. You already have basically a red mark against you. Other people pick up that book and be like, oh, I've had wonderful experiences with big books. It is way cheaper on my pocketbook to buy this with an Audible credit instead of this with an Audible credit. Same price. One gives me 9 hours, one gives me 55 hours. If you want to know why Oathbringer was the single most pre-ordered book in the history of Audible, 55 hours, right? So you can see how that reader desire and expectation plays into giving you a red mark or maybe, a green mark, something like that. And readers all have different thresholds here, but generally, you want to have as few red marks as possible for the story you want to tell. The story you want to tell is more important than getting rid of all red marks. If you try to get rid of all potential red marks that anyone could have against your book will probably turn out to be bland and uninteresting, and nobody will love it. And so you're going to have to take risks. You're going to have to do some things that are going to turn off some readers, but that are going to become selling points to other readers. That's why we have genre sections in bookstores. Because certain people, that corner of Barnes & Noble is the danger zone of nerddom, and I will never walk over there. And others of us are like, all right, where's the sci-fi section? Here, right? that doesn't mean that we wouldn't enjoy other types of stories, but we have enjoyed enough stories in the past of this sort of thing that being sci-fi fantasy immediately gives us more of this, green mark, so to speak. It gives us more threshold. We're like more willing to buy in. So this is a long way of saying, how long is your introduction? Make it as short as possible to achieve your goals for the type of story you're telling. Okay? Get as soon as possible us into the main character's head, the main character's conflict, and the proper tone of your story as soon as is possible for the type of story you want to tell. Okay? You will rarely ever get feedback that your book started off too explosively and too interestingly, and I was too interested in the character. Never going to get that feedback. You might get feedback that they're like, it didn't progress so quickly, I didn't have time to get to know the character, and I got whiplash or things like that. That can totally happen.